Hello everyone and welcome to the week 9 session of your course Intro to Machine Learning. Today what we'll do is we'll do a small discussion on multi-class classification and multi-label classification, and we'll just touch upon this some two properties of Bayesian networks, and I encourage you to try how to prove those net properties and so on. All right. Okay, to kick off the discussion, we we know that for the multi-class classification, naive Bayes they support by default, right? Because the formulation that naive Bayes has in itself has this idea of looking at per class sort of a approach, whereas in logistic regression and neural networks, the idea what we have is what we'll do is we'll say, okay, we'll learn the weights separately for each class, right? And then you try to apply some sort of last layer a method to differentiate between the two, between the multiple classes, right? So for example, uh, we have, for example, some neural network like this, right? So where we give some input x and we're getting the logits for the particular class for the particular x, like in logistic regression, right? Because what you model there is basically the probability that your what's the ratio of your the ratio of belonging to one class compared to the other class, right? And then using this idea, so what this says, we for k classes, what to do is we output something like k logits sort of a thing, whereas logits tell you the preference function, right? For example, let's say so each value here talks about how much I prefer that particular class, right? And then to convert it to a probability, we use this Boltzmann function, right? Now this Boltzmann function actually comes from uh, things like thermodynamics and so on. The idea is very clear. So instead of trying to have this constraint of like the probabilities should be one, and all of those being imposed on the network directly, what you say is we learn something like these exponents of these classes, right? So e power oi by e power oj, and we say that, okay, since oi and oj can take any random, okay, can take any value, what we want the system to output is this oi oj, and I will use some sort of a layer at the end to which is called a softmax layer, to convert it to a probability sort of an output, right? So here what will happen is your summation over I pi will be equal to 1 because of the way you have chosen this Boltzmann function to be, right? So that's the basic idea in this using neural networks for your multi-class classification, right? um, okay, so hence we basically don't take any activation on the logits directly. That is, for example, let's say if so your last layer, whatever it outputs from the weights, by summing the weights and input from the previous layer, we take that as, let's say, some oj or whatever, and then we finally apply the logits, the Boltzmann function over these values. We don't generally take like a thing like, for example, sigmoid or some tanh on this, okay? Right, because these in some sense talk about what is the preference to be given for this class compared to the remaining classes, right? So these values by themselves are, not very useful to, I mean, look at in some sense. What you talk about is, for example, when you compare two classes, if the somewhere for example, let's say O1 is less than O2, what this would imply is that the model is saying that the probability of belonging to O1 will be lesser than probability of belonging to O2, right? So O1, O2 by themselves, they don't give any huge information. It is when you put them in comparison is when you get this idea of what the model believes to be, right? The CE laws for multi-class classification turns out to be a very simple extension of what we have been doing so far with binary classes. So for example, let's say if you have k classes, then you take this sort of approach. One second. Yeah. So what you have is, you say, yeah. So what you say is, for example, the probability or the one hot representation of the class, and what is the probability of it belonging to this particular class J, right? So one hot representation basically means that for that, so let's say the given sample, some xi, okay, belongs to class J, right? So and let's say we have k total classes. So what you'll have is, you'll have like a all zeros, a vector of k zeros, in which the jth entry will be 1, right? Remaining will be zeros. Okay. Would you explain the 8th week, second and third problem? Okay. We'll check it out. I guess post the session. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So it belongs to, say, class J here. So what we'll have is, basically we'll have like a one-hot representation of this particular jth class in this format. Then what we have is, yeah. So what will end up happening is, let's say the probability that that the model has predicted for xi to be in jth class, right, turns out to be yj hat. Then what you're looking for is just saying that, okay, can you just increase the probability of this sample belonging to jth class? Because what will end up happening is, in your CE loss, right, in your CE loss, right, for this particular sample, all the values other than this, let's say use yi, yeah. So all the values other than yj will be 0, and what we have for y will just be 1. So this actually turn out to be just the minus of log of yj hat, right? So we're saying try to reduce this, which means increase this, which means increase this. That is basically try to increase the probability that it belongs to the class J, right? So we don't care about the other probabilities for a given sample, right? We just take that particular class's probability and move ahead. Okay, that's the idea. Yeah. So as I said, like, it's generally not encoded. Okay. So this works well for a while. I would say, we have so and so condition, so and so problem. For example, let's say I have a problem of news article category classification, right? For example, let's say I have some news like this, that is, Messi invests in Amazon stocks, right? Or basically we have this demonetization given by Modi, right? Then the question comes, in what category should I classify this particular news in, right? So should I put it in a sports because Messi is a sports giant, or should I put it in economics because the idea is that here it's about investing and Amazon stocks and something like that, right? Same thing with here, right? So uh, does it make sense to put it in national news because it's something that affects the whole nation, or or should I put it in economics news because it's talking about the things like money and stuff like that, right? So hence what happens is, like, we don't have a single category for each news as such, right? So the target itself is unclear in some sense, right? So because so one thing what you could do is, you could basically choose one based on some population response, right? So for example, when you're creating the uh, training sample for such uh, 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 such category classification, what you can say is, for example, let's say you give a free choice for your labelers, people who are labeling your data set, right? You say them that okay, the Messi news, you see how many have given it to be sports, right? And how many have given it to be economics, right? And see which is higher. If this is higher, then you take that okay, sports is the right category for Messi, otherwise the other way around, right? um, so we could do that. That's one certainly one approach. The other approach is we can train multiple models as such, right? And take for example, okay, Messi under sports is some possibility, or Messi under economics is one possibility. Or you can also do something like this. You can say I'll I'll create two samples in my data set, right? So I'll say, okay, Messi with this with economics is one sample, and Messi with the sports is one more sample. We say, okay, the ML algorithm is free to choose whatever it wants to learn from this data, right? So we have such possibilities. What I mean, what yeah. So hence we came to something called as the multi-label classification. That is, each sample associated with a set of labels, right? So that is, you say, okay, in this example, I will say that Messi is in so the right label for this particular news is both sports and economics. Okay. And what we say is we say okay, that you basically need to predict this set more than just individual labels as such. So what we do is basically we say that the probability, in multi-class classification, uh, we have that the probability of belonging to one class will affect the probability of belonging to the other, right? Because what happens, because of your the way softmax function works, right? You have e power oj by sigma of e power oj, right? So what ends up happening is you say okay, um yeah so let's say for some class, if this value is very high, right? So it ensures that the different class will have a lower value, right? By taking this sort of approach, right? So here we don't want that though, right? We're saying that sports and economics both are equally likely here. So don't choose among them, but rather treat them in some way independently, right? So that basically comes up here, right? So for example, let's say some PLA news, some Modi news, for example. So for each label, what we do is we try to solve a binary classification problem, right? We say that okay, we say under this label, okay, under this label, you solve a problem which says is it economics or not, right? Same thing we say, okay, is it sports or not, is it national or not, and so on. Okay, so the idea here is that you're basically solving a binary classification problem per label. Okay, and the output probability is basically just the probability of belonging to that label or not, of the news. A- a- and then based upon what your model outputs, you can basically choose whether what set do I associate with this particular news, right? For example, let's say if I have high probability coming up here and here and not here, I say that okay, the set with which I will associate my this Messi or Pele's news to be these two, economics and sports, and so on for the next news, right? But the point is that you want to do it simultaneously, right? Instead of doing it separately, like having one label one model per label, right? For example, let's say if I have, for example, let's say 3 4 more labels, instead of looking at one model per label, you want to use this information that is present in the data set to be able to solve these problems simultaneously, right? So with that, what we do is we have something like this. So let's say when you have k labels, okay, you take your input, some x, and then you say go ahead with this approach of getting the logits. But now what you do is you say the pi is basically the probability that label I suits this input, right? That is that should I assign this label to this particular sample or not, right? That's the idea. And same thing here. So what we do is we basically don't encode the output as one hot vector, but rather a n hot vector, right? So that is whichever label this particular sample belongs to, that will be having a one, and remaining won't have one. For example, let's say for the messy news, right? What will happen is uh, uh, I'll have, for example, 0 1 1 in some sense. For example, this is national, this is for economics, sports, and for the Modi news I'll have something like, let's say, 1 1 0, right? So so any number of these um, the values here can be 1 or a 0, right? So hence it's called an n hot vector. And the CE loss basically would now be, you are basically looking for each of these things as a probability value, right? So hence you'll basically have a binary classification problem, but you'll have k-such binary classification problems, right? So here you have, this is your binary CE loss, BCE, right? Binary CE loss. This binary CE loss given ran on all the classes, all the k classes, right? And then based upon the loss, you can keep on updating your weights and so on, right? So the idea here is okay. So one tweak you can do, for example, let's say there is some label where you're not getting good predictions or something, right? So what you can do with your network is have like a specialized work to be done per label. So for example, let's say I have some common layers in the beginning, and then I basically design like special layers just for the labels themselves, right? So what will happen is, your these layers are common. These two layers of your neural network or your any algorithm as such basically just looks at how, prediction of label 1, right? So this one will have a sigmoid output, right, giving you like a 0 to 1 sort of a output, but it will correspond to only the label 1 sort of a thing, right? So for example, let's say predicting label 3 was difficult, you can try to increase your the power for predicting label 3, uh, just label 3, and keep the remaining as same, right? So this thing you can do in your usual networks, right? um, so the main idea here is that you have something called as a multitask learning, right? That is, you have you want to learn different tasks from a network, from a neural network, right? But the core idea here is that you want to learn different tasks, but the internal representation that is there, that is somewhat common, right? And this latent, in some latent stuff or whatever, right? And this internal representation changes to give rise to different tasks, right? So we're saying that this sort of an approach, this captures the common information among the common info among the different labels that you have, and these layers basically capture the label specific information. Okay. um, yeah. And the fact that different tasks can get some advantage by looking at each other, right? So for example, let's say if it is easier to predict things like, for example, let's say national and economics, this particular set versus all the remaining, right? So your network, what will end up happening is you start seeing this sort of a bias in your predictions, right? And then based upon which part of the network you're looking for national use, will which are looking for between the two types of news separately. Okay. So that's the idea here. So basically you can get some advantage by looking at each other tasks, each tasks, right? So this is the discussion I want to have on multitask learning. So in Bayesian networks, if I'm not wrong, you basically have these two important properties. No, I try to prove that using the simple rules which are taught in the class. It's going to be a bit difficult. So I'll encourage you to try it out once. If not, we'll discuss in the next week. So first is saying that a node is conditionally independent of its non-descendants given its parents, right? So this node, for example, C is conditionally independent of its non-descendants. So D, E are its descendant children actually, and any child of a child is called a descendant, right? So all of these, it's independent of these give sorry of these, sorry, non-descendants. So all of these nodes, that is green, marked green here, it is independent of these given the parents, right? So if I were to, let's say, write it in terms of like this A, B, and let's say some node from here, if I use G, I as the this one, this will just be equal to P of C given AB, right? So given AB, it is free of these non-descendants. Okay, this is one property. The other property is node is conditionally independent of all the nodes given its parents, these, children, these, and children's parents, that is these, right? Which is called as Markov blanket. So this blue thing is the Markov blanket of node C. Okay, of node C. So what we're saying is, we're saying that, okay, we're saying that this node C is free of all the other nodes in the network if you give its Markov blanket, right? So P of, let's say, C given, I'll call this set as M, okay, and ij or whatever will just be equal to P of C given M. Okay, so hope, try to prove these things using the rules in the given class. So try it out. Let's see if you're able to prove this from the simple rules, right? So it's all I had planned for today. You guys, so there's somebody who asked some question on solving a problem. So do you have the problem in hand right now, Ahmed?
Sir,
So
it's
do
from
you have
the
the
assignment, sir, directly. Quiz assignment, 8th quiz assignment.
okay, just wait a minute then. Hmm. Week 8, is it? One second. Second and third problem. Okay, let me stop sharing. Share the screen entirely. Yeah. So second problem is this budget phones problem, is it? Second and third. Yeah. Okay. Um, so consider phone with two SIM cards, NFC but no C 5G compatibility. Okay. Probably this phone being a budget phone, mid-range phone, and high-end phone. Okay. So okay. So Ahmed, what have you tried here? So what approach did you take? Any thoughts on that? What approach did you try for this problem? And isn't the solutions out, by the way? Oh, they're not out. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone can help me understand how you would solve this problem under the naive Bayes assumption? Okay, so what's the naive Bayes assumption, by the way?
Sir, can you show the second question again?
Sorry.
Can you show the question again?
Oh, okay. The question is this, no? Can you guys not see the screen? You can, right?
I have some network issue because of that. It is not clear.
Uh-huh.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, sir. You continue.
Yeah. So with that, any ideas how we would solve this problem? So okay. So what is the naive Bayes assumption, by the way?
Given a class, the probability that a feature belongs to a particular class is independent of other features, right?
Okay, other features. Okay. So let's say I have y is the class given some x, right? So when you put the Bayes rule here, this is what you get, right? And this p of x we generally don't compute in something, so you can just write it as proportional to this probability, this product. And let's say if x has, for example, okay, so here what are the features? We have the features of the phone as a single SIM, 5G compatibility, and NFC, right? So this is just going to be so if the features are independent given the class, what will this what will this probability turn out to be? Let's say I have features x1 to x n, whatever, right? So this will turn out to be what, by the way? Probability of x1 given y, x2 given y, and so on, right? Probability of xn given y into probability of y, right? So now the question what they're asking is, we're asking probability of, so we're saying so we have a phone with us that is some two SIM card slots, NFC, it has NFC in it, but there's no 5G compatibility. So two and okay, so I'll just use notations a little bit. Okay, so I'll say S stands for single SIM, N stands for NFC compatibility, and what is the other thing? Sorry, NFC and 5G compatibility, right? So let's say I'll just use 5 or whatever, or let's not use 5G compatibility, right? And their respective opposites are just S bar, N bar, and G bar, right? These are the features of a particular phone. Okay, that's what we are trying to look at. So now what we're saying is, okay, if this is the case, what is the probability that a given phone, whatever phone you have, that is the features of this phone, what's the probability that this phone is a what do you call that, mid-range phone or a budget phone or a high-end phone, right? So probability that y is budget, right, given and what all do we have in our phone is two SIM card slots, so it is S bar, right? It is not single SIM slot, it is NFC compatible, right? It has NFC and it's no 5G. So this is the features that we have in place, right? So it is S bar comma N comma G bar in something. This is the X that we have. Okay, so we're saying that this is proportional to probability that I have a S bar given Y, right, given budget phone, right, given budget phone, probability that I have N given budget phone into probability of G bar given budget into probability of budget, right? Okay, so with this so this part is until here it's clear, right? Now help me understand what are these values. How will you get? Okay, first we'll go with the simplest one. What is the probability of budget, by the way, from this data set? How will you find out P of budget? Anyone? So
15 by 20, sir.
sorry,
15 by 20.
15 by 20 is it? You said
It would be 20 by 70, right?
20 by 70, right? Because we're saying that so what does this P of Y stand for? It's the prior, right? Without any information of the features of this, I mean, X, right? So blindly, if you had to choose, what is the probability that you will get a budget phone, right? So if you did that, and the so hence, so since I have 20 of these, 30 of mid-range and 20 of high-end, so the probability that I will get a budget phone is 20 by 70, 40, 70, right? So this is, so probability of budget is basically 20 by 70. Right, this is one. Then what is the we'll do one of these. For example, let's say probability of S bar given budget. Probability of S bar given budget. Okay, so now, okay, so what would this value be from this table? Probability of S bar given budget.
5 by 20.
5 by 20, right? Because given budget, so we're saying that among the budget phones, what is the probability that you have a non-single SIM? That is two SIM card slot phones, right? So so 15 have SIM card, a single SIM card. So 5 will be double SIM cards. So this will be 5 by 20, right? Similarly, you can basically find out probability of N given budget, right? Probability of what do you call that? G bar given budget, right? So find these values from the table that you have. Then you can, so with this, when you multiply all of this, what you'll get is you'll get probability of budget given whatever the data you have with you, right? Given the phone that you have, right? Okay, so it won't be exactly probability, it'll be something proportional to this probability, right? So you'll have some number, let's say KB or something, right? Similarly, you can do this for what is it, mid-range and high-end. So mid given phone, you'll get some number KM. P of high given phone, you'll get some KH. Now whichever is the highest here, its probability will be highest, right? Because we're saying it's proportional to this. All of these have the same denominator, by the way, which is probability of X, P of X, right? Which is same across all the classes. So hence, just looking at these numbers will tell you what is the ordering in which you have the probability that your phone is, I mean, the given phone is either budget, high end, or mid range. Yeah, you should solve. I mean, if you get at least you get this, your mid range, high end budget phone. Okay, so is this clear? Any doubts here?
Sir.
Yeah. No? Okay. Fine. Now we have what is this third question? Okay. Consider the following data set where outlook, temperature, humidity, and wind are independent features, and play is a dependent feature. Okay. Find the probability that the student will not play given that X is sunny and so on. Using the naive Bayes methods, assume continuous features are represented Gaussian distributions. All right. So continuous distributions are what? Humidity and temperature here, right? Okay. Sunny and windy are categorical using the naive Bayes method. Fine. So again, same idea here, I'll say. So I mean, naive Bayes method. So what you want is, you want to see whether it's student will play or not play, right? So you have just two probabilities. Actually speaking, you just have one probability because the other one is 1 minus this, right? So you just have I mean, let's say not play, let's say P bar, PL bar, given all these features that you have. Sunny, okay, 66 is temperature, sorry, um, 90 is humidity and it is true, windy is true, right? So again, you will do the same process. You will say, okay, this is proportional to probability that it is sunny given he's not playing, right? Probability that the temperature is 66 given not playing, and all of that, and total probability of not playing, right? I mean, sorry, the prior probability of not playing, right? Now, so probability of S given PL bar, right? So how will you find that out? You will say, okay, take all these no rows, right? Because that's the probability of not, the condition where it is not, where the student is not playing, and you'll find out what is the proportion of outlook being sunny, right? And same thing with windy. Now, how do you solve for this temperature and humidity issue, right? We're saying that, okay, continuous features are Gaussian distributions. So we are saying that so P of so temperature given not playing, right? So this is some Gaussian. Okay, I mean, sorry, not this. This is so temperature given PL bar is some Gaussian distribution, right? So how do you estimate the Gaussian distribution parameters? Gaussian distribution stands for just n of some sorry, some mean and variance, right? So you basically need the mean and the variance for this particular feature, that is temperature. So mean you know how to get, variance you know how to get, right? So you will get the mean and variance. So let's say it's mu t and sigma t squared, right? So now you have a Gaussian distribution for P of t, there's temperature as the input. So this is basically Gaussian of a temperature is the variable with mu t sigma t squared as your parameters for the Gaussian distribution, right? Now you want the probability that 66, temperature is 66. This doesn't make sense. If it's a continuous distribution, how can you get a number here for a given temperature? Okay, this I'll confirm. Ideally, okay, so what is the confusion here for me is that when you look at these continuous distributions, these are probability densities, right? So what you can do is you can just have the probability for a interval. You don't have a probability for the value taking some number, right? So ideally what they should have given is, let's say, temperature being in some range, let's say some 6 to 6 or to 66, and then what you do is you just say, okay, this you will integrate between 60 and 66. That is the probability of this happening, and therefore and that is what you multiply here. But if they're not assuming in that sense, what they would want is you want to evaluate this function at the value t is equal to 66 and get some density though, but you will not get probability. Okay, this I'll confirm with the TAs. Ideally, this doesn't make sense. For continuous distributions, you don't have a probability for a given temperature, for a given value, rather a range of values. Okay, same thing with humidity. All right, okay, I'll confirm that. But you got the idea here. Any doubts here?
So I would like to ask you, like, is the question asking us for the likelihood or the probability? So
Okay.
because if they ask for the likelihood, I think we can solve for that, right?
No, but I guess they're asking for the probability, right? The probability that the student will not play. So then what you do is you say you'll get some number for this, right? And then you would take the probability of PL, right? And then solve for that. These two you'll sum to one, these coefficients, and then basically get the probability. So help me understand, how would you solve it for likelihood though? What's the idea?
So basically, I found out the Gaussian distribution, which which is set in by the mu and the sigma square, like the mean and the variance. And from that, for a particular value of temperature, I could evaluate the probability, right, for that particular temperature.
No.
Like we
See,
can substitute the
substitute. No,
temperature in the Gaussian distribution ka formula.
no. I got your point, but okay. So people who are not, whatever. So s- this is what he's saying, right? So for example, let's say now this is basically some function of mu t and sigma t. So it's some function of t also. So this is basically just 1 by your root 2 pi sigma t squared e power minus of t minus mu t squared by 2 sigma t squared, right? So what he's saying is you can just put the temperature T as 66 and evaluate this. But whoever spoke, this is not the probability though. This is a probability density at time T. At temperature T. Okay. These are all basically with the assumption that you have a very small length on your measure, right? So this is not a probability. This is the probability density at temperature T. Okay. See, these are very subtle things, but these are important to know because this is what will shape your careers afterwards. Some small segue into this idea. So let's say this is your some probability measure or on a continuous random variable, right? Let's say this is the PDF, right? So the probability density function. Okay, so let's say we are talking about Gaussian, for example, let's say. Okay, so something like this, let's say, right? So what are we saying at this value, right? Let's say at 0, we're saying that the density of probability is very high. Okay, that means try to take this in the sense of mass density also, right? So what we're saying is, let's say I have some yeah I have a country, for example. Let's say this is some country C. The number of people here, okay, given per unit area are more, is what this one tells you. Okay, this thing, it tells you that per unit area I have so many so many people, right? I have X number of people. Okay, but so what we want is we don't want per unit area. We want total number of people, right? In that in this particular, let's say in this country, what you will do, you will say, okay, I will take each of the densities and multiply with the area of this country, right? In the same way you need to do here, right? So what this PDF tells you is per unit measure, like length or whatever, per unit measure, this is the probability. Okay, so to get the probability, you actually need to take some interval, some length on this, some interval on your X, okay, and integrate over that, and then you get the probability of belonging to that particular value. Okay, so so this is not a probability. This is the density, probability density at this at, let's say, some temperature T. Yeah, so that's the confusion that I have. I hope people have understood what the confusion is, and yeah so any other approaches people have in mind for solving this? So I'm thinking that if you do that, is when you get this 0.001367. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, ठीक है, I'll confirm this with the TS. This doesn't sit with me right until now. ठीक है. Okay.
So can we just go back to the Bayesian Networks slides? If it doesn't.
Okay.
There are two cases. One is with parents of the children and one is without. So what is used when the two conditions, the difference between the two conditions? This and the next one.
Okay. See, here what we're saying is this C, the node C, is is independent of these guys, G, H, F, I, and everything, if you give the parents A and B. Okay, so if I know A and B, C will not depend upon, I mean, to find out C, I don't need any other information. This is enough for me, right? The probability at least, right? Now, what are we looking at here? We're looking at any other nodes in the whole network, right? See, because so what am I saying here is C is not independent of these guys anymore, right? C depends on D, E, and K, J, and for example, let's say if these guys have some 10 other children, it will depend on all of them. It is just independent of non-descendants. Here I'm saying that if I take the immediate children and those children's parents, any other node in this whole in this whole network will be independent of C. I mean, C will be independent of that given all the data here.
So the second one, AB or not given is what you're saying.
No, AB are given. So the Markov blanket is basically the parents, the children, and the children's parents. So C ka parents is A and B. So A, B are given. C ka children are D and E. D and E are given. And D's parents is only one, that is G. So G is given, and E's parents is only F. F is given. If I give all of these, then C is independent of any other node in the network.
Okay, see, even the parents of the children are given as well.
Correct. Parents of the children also, yeah. So C's children and their parents. So basically, in some sense, spouse in quotes. If you know them also, the remaining nodes are, will be independent of C.
Okay, thanks.
Sir, could you help solve the first question of week 8, please?
Oh, first question. Oh, this one is it?
Sir, the third case basically I was not able to solve.
Okay, third case is P of B H given EG. EG is P of B given EG, P of H given EG. Oh, okay. So what are the rules here? I keep forgetting these. So if I'm not wrong, just correct me on the basic rules, and then we'll see how to apply it there. So let's say I have nodes like this from the class I, J, and K. This is another condition, right? And another condition is this becoming a source. Yeah. So knowing J, right? Knowing J makes this independent, if I'm not wrong. Same thing here. Knowing J makes them independent. Sorry?
Yes, correct. Correct.
And not knowing J makes this independent.
Makes them independent. Yeah, correct.
Correct. Okay. So okay, if we try to apply that here, can we see something? So so if we B, E, F, and G, and B, E, G. Okay, so if I were to draw it separately, I have B, E is here. So F is, I guess you can sort of ignore here. You get something like this. Okay, F, H, and G. Okay, and what all we know? We know E and G, is it? Okay, so E and G we know. This is known. This is also known. Okay, so one thing what I have here is that knowing E has made B and F independent, right? From this rule, right?
Yes, sir, correct.
So so B is independent of F because given E. Okay. Okay. Now the thing is, F is not known though, right? And we want relation between which two? We want between B and H. Okay. G is known. See, in this sync source sort of a thing, what is it? Okay. So knowing I will make them independent, but so knowing J, if I know I, will it make J and K independent? No. Right? It will actually make them
dependent.
Yes, knowing I will make them dependent. So G is known, so F and H are not independent, right? F is not independent of H given G, right? Now what I need to look for is between B and H, what will be the relation. So if B is independent of F, given E, and F is not independent of H though, given G. So will B and H be independent is the question. So any ideas how you would go about doing this? So BF given E, P of B given E, F given E. All right, and P of FH given G is not equal to P of F given G and P of H given G. Okay. But F is unknown. If F is unknown, these are not. Yeah, this is a bit dicey. So I don't think we can just come about and say that B is independent. B is dependent on H because B is independent of F. Okay, I'll check this out. Let's see. What? Oh, 1 second though. See, E depends on. So knowing E is sort of a parent of G and H, right? So can I say that knowing E, G and H are independent? No. Okay, so I'll try it out. If people have some idea here, they can chip in. But otherwise, I'll need to look into this once again and come. Yeah. Okay. Any other question in this thing? Okay. So help me understand. Do you guys want to solve problems in this session, like the quiz problems and practice problems, or do you want like the information that I keep giving outside of your syllabus? What do you prefer doing? Because and why I do the stuff outside syllabus is because you already have all the information in the solutions though, right? So any preferences? Otherwise, I'll keep doing what I'm doing right now.
Only for such problems like this graphs, then as a graphs or something numerical is there, so that we are getting small problem in that. Remaining everything we are getting from the videos, something like that.
Okay.
If such problems are there in that, so if you explain that one also, it's okay, sir. Only those particular questions like that. Remaining you can go for outsourcing, no problem.
Okay.
So or else after solving the week's assignment, we can post in the discussion forum whether we need a extra info session or a doubt solving session for the upcoming lecture.
So you can do that. Yeah. No, so I did post in the initial days, but there was no response, so I don't understand. So I was unclear as to what you want as a group. Yeah. So okay, so let's do one thing. From next class, I'll do I'll do at least 1 or 2 problems at least, which I think are sort of difficult or whatever, right? And then we'll do the other required stuff. Yeah. So this week 9 is over, is it? No.
No, sir. It's currently
28th. Okay.
Not completed, sir.
Okay, fine, cool. Okay. So feel free to put it on the group itself. For example, let's say once your week 9 deadline gets over, so for this session, do you want if you have any specific problems you want me to try, post on the group, I'll do that. Else we can look at the new stuff in machine learning if there's something that you're interested in. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, guys. See you. See you guys next Saturday.